This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 126 with Joette Calabrese.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
And welcome back to the podcast. We're so glad that you've joined us today. We love that you're here and are so excited about your homeopathy journey. So thanks for being here. Today we have a special treat. Joette is going to be talking to a special guest, so I'm just going to let her take it away.
Thanks, Kate. So I'd like to introduce Kirsten Deca. I've gotten to know Kirsten pretty well through the last few years because she's been a student of mine for some time. She joined the academy, and we're going to hear all about that. And then she went into the next year, the mastery program. And now she's in our mastermind program. And I really wanted you to hear her story. So welcome, Kirsten.
Thanks, Joette. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be good today. So I'm interested in knowing, as many people are, a little bit about your life, what you do, and what brought you to homeopathy.
Okay, well, I'm a mom of 6. My husband and I live here in the northwestern part of Florida. My husband is retired Air Force, and we have moved up here kind of out into the country. We have a little homestead. And we raise chickens, and we have dogs and some goats and horses. My journey to homeopathy is interesting. I have a background in healthcare. I'm a licensed physical therapist assistant. Although I'm retired, I haven't been in a clinic for probably, over 20 years now. But I've always loved anatomy and physiology. I'd like to say healthcare, although I feel different about what it actually is now. But my dad was actually a pharmaceutical rep. So I was raised with drugs. They were everywhere. It's just what we did. In fact, I didn't really know that there was even another way. If you were sick, that's just what you did. You took a pill, or actually we used to have, I don't know if you remember kaopectate, Joette. You remember?
I do.
So we used to have it everywhere. And I don't know why I thought it tasted good, but we would just drink it. Like we would go sneak it out of my dad's samples and take kaopectate. I don't know how we ever went to the bathroom, but anyway, so to say that drugs were commonplace is just an understatement. I went to school to be a physical therapist assistant. I had played sports for years and years, had gotten injured, and had had multiple surgeries. So again, drugs, and more drugs during surgery, after surgery. And then I didn't really question until probably most of us when we had children. So I had my kids. And then I had a son that began displaying some behavioral issues, and we just noticed something was different, and he was diagnosed with Asperger's. So that really kind of started me on my journey of questioning kind of what I had done. Was anything that I had done contributed to this? And so I started reading, educating myself, and then I started asking questions in the doctor's office, which that did not go over really well. And I began to get pushback. And so that even pushed me further in questioning, okay, why is this an issue? These are my kids. You would think they would welcome it. I really expected the doctors to, pat you on the head and go, good job. But that was not the case. So we started deciding not to do certain things, and I began to get kicked out of doctors' offices. And I started doing my own research. And for my son, and we started changing diet. We added herbs. We did all those things. And we did see some things get better, but we just never saw it go away, right? And if you stop doing those things, issues came back. So then I had a friend who was kind of on that same journey, gluten, dairy-free, She was actually a client of yours, Joette. She introduced me to homeopathy. And I saw her one day eating pizza. And I thought, oh my goodness, she has given up. She's just decided she's going to go out and enjoy food. I just couldn't believe it. I knew her diet was very restrictive. And I said, well, what are you doing? Where are you eating pizza? And she's like, homeopathy. And I thought, what are you talking about? And I probably wasn't really nice about it. I probably was like, what is that? It sounds crazy. So she just very nicely smiled, does what you tell people to do, just leave your little seeds and walk away. And I just over time asked her a few more questions, and she invited me to a gateway. So that's really where I started, was that gateway class. And I did that gateway class and started to implement those medicines for my kids, for other people. And that's really where I began to see some things change. And then fast forward just a little bit of time, that was 2019. So spring of 2020, where we all know there were some crazy things happening, and I hurt my foot. I would love to garden, and I was tilling some manure into the garden and left something out and was walking around in flip-flops at night and shoved this tool right between my toes. And I did all the things. I took Liam and I took Arnica, I took a few other things, but I still didn't really know. I was not proficient. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I called my friend and said, what else do I do? And she helped me. But it continued to kind of get infected. And it got pretty nasty, and I developed cellulitis. And I had called some friends of mine that were in the medical profession, and they said, oh, you've got to go in. You've got to go in. You need IV antibiotics. But I did not want, at that time, I was like, this is not a time I want to go to the hospital. I'm just going to really try this on my own. And I tell people it was my burn the ships moment. I was like, this is do or die for me. I couldn't tell somebody else not to go, but I'm not going. And so I'm going to figure this out. Well, amazingly, it wasn't super painful. It looked like it should have been, but I was still kind of able to move around on it, and it stopped. So it looked bad, but it wasn't progressing. It wasn't getting any worse. And I think it was your article, Joette, that I came across. It was on MRSA, because it looked very much like MRSA to me.
Yes.
And so when I read that, I was like, I need to do hyper R's. And I added pyrogenium. And when I did that, within 24 hours, I saw a shift. I saw the redness go down, the swelling go down, normal color started to return, and I knew I was on the right track. And within a week of that, it was completely gone. Like you wouldn't have even known I had had an infection.
It's an amazing story because I've seen the photographs of it. Cellulitis is nothing to play around with. You either go in and get the antibiotics and do what you're told to do at an ER, or you know what you're doing homeopathically. And you knew what you were doing. Yeah. And I'm sure that you questioned it, because we all do when we're not well.
Right.
Am I doing the right thing? Let me believe I'm doing the right. And then you go back and you read up on those remedies. Am I sure this is the right remedy after taking it? I'm sure that went through your mind that day.
It did. And this is where community comes in. The friend that was helping me came to my house, and she, continued to reassure me, you're on the right track. It's okay. If I think you're all right, for those moments of doubt. So that was really important too.
But that's not empty reassuring, I must say. What she was doing was she was reading the symptoms, where the symptoms were like just before taking the homeopathic,
right,
and where they were shortly after taking them, because we can learn how to read symptoms and determine, is this improving? Because if it isn't, we really do have to perhaps go to traditional medicine.
Right.
But once you have an understanding of this, as she did, and that, I'm sure you do now as well, you can read what's going on, what the body's telling us.
Right. And she was seeing the pictures too. So I think I was just, there were those times where like, oh, am I going to do a good enough job to make this work? And thankfully it did work. And I've seen it work time and time again. Hyper R's is incredible. I've seen infections just be able to melt away.
Yeah, it's a Banerjee protocol, Hypericum 200 with Arsenicum 200, and the Banerjees call it Hyper R's, and so that's what we call it in our studies. So, yeah. it's mixed together. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing for these kinds of conditions. And then you use pyrogenium as well, 200, right?
Correct. So that was really when I decided, okay, these medicines, they work time and again, and this shouldn't have healed. I thought this, conventionally speaking, everybody thought I was crazy, and this worked. I know they'll work. There's no reason why this should have healed without these medicines. I decided I needed to learn more. And when the academy became available, I applied, and that's kind of how this journey started.
It starts with a watershed moment for most people. Something happened to their child, something happened to them, something happened to their parent or even their livestock, an animal. And that's when people say, wait a minute, I've got to find out more. And it's someone like you, Kirsten, who's, and this is one of my favorite words, autodidactic, likes to learn on their own. And so that's how you started. But then you found, as you said, then the next step is joining a group of people in Gateway to Homeopathy so that you're with others who think similarly or at least are looking to study in the same fashion.
Right. Yep. And that was really the first thing I did is I did Gateway again. And then I taught it again.
Then
I taught it. That's right. And then that was really what I did before starting the academy.
So you had a good head start.
Yeah. I was really wanting to learn. It was amazing. I just couldn't believe, where had these been all my life? I'd done all the things, and why did I not know these? And so I felt, and I still feel, I've got a limited amount of time. I'm not 20, I'm 50. So, I want to really continue to learn these so I can know them well and help people, my family and my community.
Some people say they get angry when they realize, wait a minute.
Yep.
I mean, we're grateful that we've got this great medicine, but wait, you mean to tell me that all these years, just like you said, this has not been out there for me to see or to know about or to be able to use? My parents didn't know, my grandparents. This has been around since the late 1700s. What? We don't know about this?
Right. And then when you start learning the history behind it and why we don't know, it makes you even more angry.
Yes. Yeah. It's an interesting history. Medical history is pretty darn interesting. So tell us what else you've done. You have another story? We love stories.
Oh, gosh. Well, I have some really neat ones. Since going through APH and Mastery, I've had a chance to work with some clients and had some really great results. I think one of the neatest stories, and probably one of the most difficult, I have someone close to me that has a daughter that has type 1 diabetes, asthma, and now has actually been diagnosed with Addison's disease. So that has been difficult, but so rewarding. And I think this is hopeful for people that, even if they have to be tied to some sort of pharmaceutical, like we're never going to get away from insulin. That's going to always be in our lives. And because of the Addison's disease, we're going to have some measure of, steroid replacement. But I will tell you, the amount of medication we've been able to get away from for this child since helping her has been incredible. She was diagnosed with celiac. She had chronic constipation. She had eczema. And those are all gone. For a type 1 diabetic to not have food choices is really difficult. And this child could not go anywhere where there was gluten. We couldn't bring food into the house. She would get sick and throw up, and she can eat anything she wants now. So to have brought that kind of freedom and quality of life to someone is just incredible. So are we going to still have to be tied to some medication? Yes. But the pharmaceutical needs have gone down drastically, and her quality of life has gone up immensely. Her mom told me that she said, "Mom, what did we do before homeopathy?" That's
so
really
it's not,
incredible.
obviously, it's not just for her, it's for her parents and someday for her own children.
Right.
And the ripple effect is grand.
It really is. And her insulin needs have gone down. She is on the smallest dose. They didn't even know, it's hard to titrate kids with Addison's. So she's on the lowest dose of steroid that you can even be on. And she's going through puberty. So her needs should be going up, but the needs for her pharmaceuticals are not. So to say that this has been just really incredible in her life is an understatement.
Beautiful. Great story.
Yeah.
Love it. And so what that gives us, it gives us a great deal of hope, but it also tells us that we can move a case along. We can move someone along quite far without saying it's 100% cure. If we can give someone their life back, someone, let's say with rheumatoid arthritis, they might still have deformans of their hands, but they no longer have pain. And now that woman can knit, and now that woman can prepare meals for her and her husband. And so those are the kinds of things we know. It will take it as far as it can take it. But meanwhile, the quality of life has been improved greatly.
Yeah,
good story. Good
it really
story.
has. Funny you talk about RA. One of my first cases was a rheumatoid arthritis case. And this person came to me because they were having to switch. They had been on biologics for years and they were having chronic infections. They really were not feeling well. I don't think at the time necessarily that she put that with the biologics, understood that maybe that was coming from the biologics. But even the doctor said, yeah, it's going to lower your immune system. It can't have these side effects after we talked about it. And I said, I'll work with you, whatever you want to do. But she decided she was going to have to switch medications and she wanted to get off. So I said, okay, if that's what want to do and your doctor's on board, well, let's just give it a go. So we started the protocol and she has not been back on these medicines since. And it took 3 months. And 3
That's
months,
what I was going to ask you. 3 months.
3 months. That's it.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I really didn't know that it would work that fast. She was amazed. I was amazed. Just such a great outcome.
So again, it affects you, your children, your family, her family, and then her friends and her neighbors and her church mates, et cetera, et cetera. And it has that effect that's how this information needs to get out there, is through word of mouth. And that's exactly what we're doing today. It's another way of getting the word out, how important this medicine is in the hands of mothers and grandmothers. Right. And now you're a practitioner.
That was never my intention. I thought I would go into this and I was just wanted the information for myself and my family. And then Mastery came along and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. So let's learn how to do it even better. And so I sort of fell into that. People come to you. They know that you're out there and they want help. And they say, would you be willing to help me? And, what are you going to do? You're not going to say no. And really, it is, for lack of a better term, it's addictive to help people. There's no feeling like being able to help someone heal when they've been suffering for years. It is just a wonderful feeling.
That's kind of our mission being on this earth, is to help others. It's a big part of it. You bet.
Right.
Well, Kirsten, I can't thank you enough. People need to know that you can start from scratch and move all the way into being able to help your family and your friends, and then move on to even practice. And that's, of course, what you've done. And this has been over a span of what? How many years would you say?
Goodness.
When you first met with your friend and who recommended homeopathy?
That was 2019. So it's not been, been that long. No. And I really am just a mom. I never had any intention on going back to school. We're in the company, as you know, Joette, there are some really sharp cookies in the academy and in Mastery. And I'm humbled to just rub shoulders with them because there are some quite just intelligent practitioners. I really came into this just as a mom, but it's amazing what you can learn and what you can do to help someone. And it's just been a pleasure. And I tell other students, you just trust the process. Trust the process. It's a process. You don't realize what you can accomplish, and anybody can do it.
Yes, anybody can learn some of the protocols, but when someone is able to put it together in the fashion that you have, because you are studious, I have to say that, Kirsten, and you're myopic about it. You become very intense and have studied. I know, I can see you. I've seen you in class through the years, and I can see what kind of person you are. And it takes someone with a certain amount of dedication as well to be able to get to this point. So I hope that this has inspired many others, because this is doable. It is doable. Anybody can do a few of these, but only certain kind of a person who's willing to put the effort into it can do as much as I think you've accomplished. So there you have it.
You.
Yes, you're welcome. My hope is that we've inspired you to have a little more control over your life, my dear listeners, and less anxiety and a whole lot more confidence when it comes to taking care of your family and even moving forward in a new career. It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free without affiliates or advertising here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday Night Lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse joetteslearningcenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.